Are you task-oriented or goal-oriented? Do you create a things to-do list? How smart are you about it, really? Today, we've got a special guest that's going to talk about that and so much more coming up. Hi, and welcome to Renew with Sheri. I'm Sheri, and I'm going to be your host. I'm glad you're here with us today because I want to talk to you about to-do list. Do you ever have a to-do list? I have lots of them. In fact, I'm constantly scratching off things on my to-do list and creating new ones over and over and over throughout the day. If I lose my list, I'm absolutely lost. And, it's crazy if I lose that sheet of paper and I go to the store and I'm like, what was I coming to the store for? Do y'all have that kind of problem? Another thing that I have a problem with is keeping up with goals and setting goals. I have no idea. When somebody asks me, oh, well, what's your goal for this month? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. And when it came to health and wellness, I definitely didn't know how to set goals. And so I'm really excited today because I have the pleasure of announcing not a good friend of mine, but my very own daughter, Brittany Taylor. And she is kind of like my mentor when it comes to setting goals and kind of giving me a good kick in the pants and keeping me on track with my health and wellness. And it's so exciting that I can have her on because she is a wealth of knowledge. And I hope that you get out of it what I do when I listen to her. It's really hard for me because to change my tune, it's like, that's my daughter. Am I going to listen to my daughter? Nah, I'm not going to listen to her, And so I have to change and really give her credit because she's awesome at what she does. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about what her background is and what she does, every day and what she's experienced with. And then we're going to talk about getting smart with setting goals. And so, Brittany, just kind of let the audience know what you do, other than being my grandbaby's mama. What do you do for a living?
Well, it kind of all started with me being in nursing school or preparing for nursing school and wanting to kind of stay in that arena while I was studying. And so I got a job as a wellness coach where I train people on equipment and teach them how to set goals. And we focus on not only long-term 6-month goals where we kind of put them on a program where they'll check back with me once a month and be held accountable, but we also then break them down into 30-day goals so that we can follow up. But the only way that we can really follow up is by setting SMART goals. And so that's something that I'm here to talk about, which is making sure those goals fall within these certain parameters that I can then check up on and hold them accountable to. That's really hard for somebody to do when they say they just simply want to lose weight or get healthy or get fit. Those are really good ideas, but they're not necessarily goals because we can't really write them down and go after them unless we know specifically what we need. So today I can talk a little bit about SMART goals, which is really just an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, recorded, and time-based goals. And so whenever I'm talking to a member or a client about setting goals, I will hone in on those goals by asking very detailed questions to get to know them better and know how I can start narrowing down what they're trying to actually accomplish.
And so break that SMART down a little bit more. So what's the S for?
Specific.
Specific meaning what, though?
So if somebody says, I want to get in shape or I want to lose weight, I want to know, what size are you looking to be, or how many inches are you wanting to lose, or how many pounds are you wanting to lose? There needs to be something that I can measure and follow up on. I can't simply say, so do you feel more in shape today? Because otherwise that person may have a good day or a bad day, or they may be working towards this idea of what they want, but that's going to evolve over time. And let's face it, there are some days where you can come in and you feel like you're on fire, and other days where you're having a really tough time. You need those very objective parameters to know how far you're actually coming.
What do you do with someone like me when I was not ready, and you kept telling me that I needed to have goals, and I was like, what goals? I'm not even ready to get started. So let's say you've got someone that shows up in front of you, but they're being coerced to get there by a family member, and they're like, I really don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. How do you break that barrier to get them to start even talking about that first step of setting a goal?
So a lot of times I run into teenagers who have that mentality. Not a lot of adults come in there with that mentality. They just elect not to do that kind of program with me. But teenagers who maybe play a specific sport or want to accomplish a goal that might not be quite on an adult level, like losing weight or losing inches. A lot of times I'll try to get to know them first to know exactly what they're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to be better at this specific sport? Are you trying to get on this team? Do you have tryouts coming? Or prom, girls wanting to just feel really good about themselves. And those are really tough things to hone in on, but they're very possible if you get to know them and you tap into what it is that excites them. And so the same goes for an adult. Sometimes somebody has diabetes or they have a health issue and their doctor is really pushing them to get better, but they're not necessarily motivated to. And so one of the things that I do is I try to just tap in. What motivates you? Is it your family? Is it the ability to go on this trip to look good for your reunion? Or is it just to reduce your overall cholesterol medication? Or whatever it is that they're trying to improve upon in their lives. Because there is something. It's just a matter of finding out what that is. And on paper, it's going to look very different from having a conversation and getting to know them.
And then, okay, so that's the S part of SMART. What's the M?
Measurable.
Okay, and so you kind of guide them into, just like you said, as far as how many inches, how many pounds, what kind of clothes size, that's what's making it measurable.
Yes, and sometimes that's a little intimidating for people. Losing weight, losing inches, losing pounds, whatever, that is only one component. So we can also measure it by tracking how many days they're getting into the gym each week. Tracking how many miles they're running, if that's one of their goals. Tracking their food. They can use an app like MyFitnessPal or something that is readily available to them so that they can actually track what they're doing. That is a measurable part of your goal. It can even be drinking half their body weight in ounces of water. So if someone weighs 150, they drink somewhere around 75 ounces a day. Tracking that. Any of those things are measurable, and they will all ultimately get them to their overall goals, which is usually to be healthier and lose weight. There's a wellness-seeking component to that.
Now, what's the A in SMART?
Attainable. So some people come in and they have 6-month goals to lose 100 pounds, and that's just simply not attainable. To some people, if they're doing a very rigorous program that's overseen by a doctor and maybe very controlled, that may on some level be attainable, but for the everyday person who's doing this on their own with a little bit of guidance, we're looking more at 1 to 2 pounds a week. So usually there's a limitation to what they're actually capable of, and sometimes it takes a little conversation and reality checking to make sure that they're not setting these goals so high that they end up knocking themselves down because they're not hitting what they're wanting to hit, or they're not reaching those goals quickly enough the way they thought they could in the beginning.
Okay. And then the R in SMART is?
Recorded. That's the part of coming
in
once a month and actually checking in with somebody.
The accountability part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that part.
Yeah. Some people really don't enjoy tracking their food, and it's known that people grossly overestimate or underestimate their calorie intake for the days. And so recording it is really important. But another way of recording is simply writing down what it is you're wanting to accomplish, and then writing down, for the next 30 days, I'm going to do this. And then revisiting it. Record what you weigh. Record, how many inches your waist is. Recording all of those things that are measured in the beginning that we can then kind of have a reference point for progress.
So, but what if you get somebody that says, oh, I forgot my book. I'm working all the time and I'm driving on the road. I don't have time to record anything. And they need to get in that habit of doing it. How do you get someone to that point, that has, excuse after excuse? Because I'm really bad about that. When I was tracking my weight and tracking what I ate, a lot of it was done up here, and it was an inconvenience for me to write something. Mm-hmm. And so what do you do? What do you tell somebody?
Well, a lot of times that comes down to, how badly do you really want to accomplish this goal? And how confident are you that you actually remember everything that you do on a daily basis, everything that you take in, everything that goes out? There are certain perks to recording things through apps that are out there on our phones or our iPads or whatever. There are lots of perks to being able to see your deficits at the end of the day, how much you took in versus how much you expended through exercise or through restriction by carefully watching what you're eating and making sure that they're compiled of whole foods with lots of really good macronutrients. Having something break that down for you so that you can study and really be aware. But for the people who aren't necessarily curious about that, I just start to ask them questions like, what's stopping you? If you know that this is an effective way of helping you get to your end goal, what about that is unappealing to you or not worth it to you to try or to give it a shot? Because we know that 3 weeks of doing something consistently can build a habit, or 3 weeks of eliminating something can help remove a habit that you've had that you're looking to not have anymore. And so when I talk to them about that, a lot of times it comes up with, I was doing so well, and then I got off my medication, and I decided to treat myself. And the next thing you know, it just spiraled out of control. And a lot of times what I'll bring into that conversation is, why do you think you did that to yourself? Were you really rewarding yourself? Or was that more of a form of sabotage of your progress? Because you don't know who you are if you don't have this struggle with your weight for the rest of your life. You don't know who you are as a person if this struggle is gone. And so that's when it gets kind of deep, is if I see somebody who wants all these things but they're not willing to put in the work, then where's the disconnect? That's when I start talking about the deeper things.
That is deep. She hits me all the time with stuff like that. Yeah. So, it makes you face a reality of where you are. And like she said, how bad do you want it? Because deep down inside, you may want it. And if you're depressed, that depression's going to build a wall and block you from really being able to sit down and analyze where you are and what you want to do. And that's kind of where I was at, in a denial section, with my life. And until I got really rolling and had to hear her beat me up a couple of times about, what I needed to do to change, it was very difficult. But it's great to have somebody knowing that there are people out there in the community that actually do things like this to help you get going and to stand by your side throughout the whole process. We're going to take a quick minute and go to a commercial break, and I'm excited to hear more about what Brittany has to say, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
How does your small business stay top of mind with customers? From deals that bring them in with an offer, to social media promotions that turn fans into customers, to events that engage and create buzz, to emails that keep loyal customers coming back. Our easy-to-use tools will keep you in front of your customers.
Visita provides a complete business calendar, fully integrated with your client scheduling experience. You can view and manage your daily schedule and any upcoming meetings, and most importantly, schedule new appointments and follow-ups with your clients. Using Visita Calendar for client scheduling will save you time and deliver a better service to your clients. Visita Calendar automatically syncs with your existing calendar on Google, Outlook, iPhone, and more.
Welcome back, and we want to take this moment to thank our sponsors, because without our sponsors, we wouldn't have this made possible for you. So again, thank you to all of our sponsors out there. And getting back to Brittany talking about being smart about goal settings, we want to talk about that final T in SMART. And Brittany, what's that final T about?
Time-based. So just to reiterate, it's simply keeping people accountable and reinforcing through the other parts of that acronym by having somebody check in every once in a while, where we then look at those measurable goals, the attainable, measurable, specific, recorded goals, and we do it every 30 days for the next 6 months.
Awesome. And by the way, if any of you have any questions for Brittany, simply just email me at Sheri@renewwithsheri.com, and I'll get all the questions to Brittany, and she will answer them directly for you and get right back with you. Hopefully you've got some great questions for her. She'd love to hear from you. Also visit our website, renewwithsheri.com. Feel free to do that as well. And Brittany, I want to go into the next thing that you had talked to me about was giving some examples. You gave 4 really good examples about setting those goals. And so maybe before we get into those 4 examples, tell me the difference between what's a short-term goal and what's a long-term goal. Because I always think of, some people will think a month-long goal is long-term. Is that long-term or short-term?
It's really all in how you phrase it. So you have your long-term goals, which is ultimately what you're hoping to accomplish. Your short-term goals are going to be the small actions that you're going to take towards those long-term goals.
So even a month could be a short-term goal.
A month could be a short-term goal if you were going to do something over the course of the month that was going to get you closer to your long-term goal, which in my case with my members would be 6 months. Or you could even look at short-term goals being a daily goal that you meet to accomplish something that you wanted to accomplish in a month.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So somebody's goal could be just a month long.
Yeah.
And that makes it a long-term goal because they're going towards their actual goal. Okay.
So say somebody wants to, lose no more than 8 pounds in a month. Their goal is, at the end of this month, they want to be at this specific body weight. If that's a possible goal for them and that's realistic, then their short-term goals could simply be to get to the gym 4 days a week. That could be one of those short-term goals. The next one could be to have a calorie deficit of 1,000 calories a day through their diet and their exercise. So when you have a long-term goal being at the end of the month, you want to weigh this, your short-term goals then begin to be daily goals or weekly goals that help you still get to your long-term goal. Or you can look at a 6-month goal as long-term, and short-term would be what you accomplish in the next 30 days that gets you closer to your long-term goal.
Okay. And I think one of those 4 examples that you gave me, one of them was the weight, wasn't it?
Yes. It would be like somebody saying, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds over the next 6 months. They want to take it nice and slow. They want to do it at a rate that's manageable, that requires maybe more of a lifestyle change instead of just this sudden, switch going off. Some people can lose weight faster, especially if they're starting off at a different point where there's a necessity for that, or where they're carrying more body weight, so they are naturally burning more calories when they come in and work out. They may have a larger drop in weight initially. But for most people, if you make it a little bit more drawn out, where your calorie deficit is somewhere closer to 500 to 750 calories a day, then that's much more manageable than, the 1,000 or plus calories a day deficit that you're trying to accomplish through your diet and exercise. That's a really rigorous
So you're
schedule.
not saying eat 500 to 750 calories. You're saying
deficit.
Reduce what you're already taking in. But if you're not keeping a log, then you don't know what to reduce. That goes back to that.
Well, and that's the beautiful
smart thing.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about having a log in an app, because that app can take into consideration your age, your height, your weight, your activity level, that would all be part of your resting metabolic rate, which is going to show what you naturally burn at rest on a daily basis. That is the foundation for figuring out how much you need to eat and how much you need to burn on a daily basis to lose weight. Okay. If you don't know those figures, which otherwise on paper would be a pretty complex math problem, then you don't really know how much of a deficit you should be doing, because if you had this idea of how much you should be eating on a daily basis and, I'll just reduce it from that, like I'll just do, 1,800 calories a day, well, I'll just reduce it by 500 calories, that's could potentially put you in a position where you are in a catabolic state, burning energy from your muscles because your body's not taking in enough food to meet its resting metabolic rate. And in that case, you can actually find yourself in a situation where you're eating too little and your body's not going to reduce that weight. So it's really important to kind of have those factors, included.
My thing is, I'm really old school. I don't read books on Kindle. I like the old books. I like to highlight. I like to dog ear my pages, and I like to write things down. So when you say get an app, I'm intimidated by it. I'm scared to death. I mean, I have an iPhone and I don't know how to use half of it. Mm-hmm. You know how we're always joking about stupid mistakes I make with technology. So what would you say to someone out there that's intimidated like me, and you're sitting there saying, go get an app? And it's like, I don't know, I mean, are there people that show you how to use them, or?
I mean, I do. I would say if you wanted to, you could either look at the app and all of its benefits and choose to learn it in and out so that you can take advantage of everything that it's going to teach you and do for you. But if not, you can Google resting metabolic rate. There are formulas out there. You can put that goal in your book and figure out your deficit and then manually write everything down. But just keep in mind that if you want to know how many calories or the breakdown of macronutrients in your food, you're still going to have to Google it. So if you're going to have to refer to the internet to research what's in your food or how many calories, and you're going to have to refer to the internet for your resting metabolic rate and setting those goals, you might as well do it in an app, because you are going to be back and forth looking online regardless.
That's exactly what I did. I literally, if I ate a pork chop, I literally would go to Google and I say, what's the nutritional value of a pork chop? If I ate a boiled egg, what's the nutritional value of a boiled egg? And I literally wrote down carbs, fats, proteins, and I listed each number out and did the calculation to figure out my percentage. But I'm old school, so I was comfortable with that. It was time consuming though. For the first couple of weeks, I felt like I was constantly in my notebook. I felt like I was in school trying to learn how to do this because I'm intimidated by those apps. And you see, I don't have a Fitbit. I have yet to do that. And that's where I feel like that's where I'm headed, because I want that. I want my life to be eased up a little bit and not so stressful, and let something calculate it for me. I'm just intimidated. So if you're one of those that's intimidated as well, don't sweat it. There are more of us that are in that boat. And we just got to take time and learn and get with people who have the resources to educate us and the patience to educate us if we're old school like that. And I hear it all the time, Mom, why don't you get one of these? Why don't you do this? And I'm like, no, so I am intimidated by it as well. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to do it, but it could make your life so much easier to do that. Now, Brittany, you had said something about water earlier, mm-hmm. and I did a show on water. Mm-hmm. And so maybe I'm going to pick your brain for a minute. Tell the audience, what are some of the benefits of water? Let's see if your mama got it right in her other show that she did.
Okay. Well, water is absolutely responsible for the viscosity of your blood. So getting your blood flow to regulate, or getting your heart rate to regulate, getting your blood pressure down, all of those things are going to be related to how hard your heart is having to work to pump it through the rest of your body. So increasing your blood volume through drinking more water is absolutely one of those ways you can do that. The other thing is that Water is absolutely necessary to lubricate our joints. It keeps our digestive system healthy. One of the things that I have to do on a regular basis is remind myself to drink water. I try to do maybe 20 ounces before I have my first cup of coffee so that I don't have that stimulant to prevent me from remembering to hydrate, because it gets my digestive system going. It's something that I can ingest going ahead and kind of helping my kidneys go ahead and
Well, we've been
filter that blood.
sleeping all night long, so we're literally getting dehydrated when we sleep. And that's one of the things that I had said before was, you're sleeping all night, you're dry. You need to brush your teeth and then drink some water immediately before you do anything else. Absolutely.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand what dehydration signs are. The first sign of dehydration is not thirst. It's actually dry lips. And so a lot of times we just put on some chapstick and go about our Starbucks, and we don't really think that that's actually our body first telling us. With kids, it's even worse because kids don't have those triggers. Their bodies don't recognize that they're thirsty until they're already way more dehydrated than the average adult than when an adult recognizes that they are thirsty. And then, of course, water is something that when we're thirsty, we tend to confuse hunger for thirst. And so simply by drinking water and giving ourselves just what we need first, just to make sure that it's not food that we're looking for, that our bodies are actually just looking for fluid.
That was one of the first things when I started using my supplement to help me get into fat burning mode. One of the things I had to do was not drastically change what I was eating, but learning to listen to my body first. And part of that was simply making sure that I was getting enough rest and making sure that I was drinking plenty of water. And when I thought I was hungry, the first thing I did was drink water. And then the second thing I did was ask myself, am I hungry because I'm bored? Am I hungry because it's that time of day and my body was already preconditioned to eat 3 meals a day? And just those two simple changes of asking myself, am I hungry really? And drinking that water, it would buy me time to answer myself, let my body answer myself. That was the hardest thing for me because I was a go person, and it was like if I dare ask myself if I was hungry, I almost became fixated on food to where even if I wasn't hungry, I thought about it so much that it's almost like I could tell my stomach to growl. And that to me took a good 3 weeks or more for me just to talk back and forth to my body. And the more water I drank, the more I craved it. And I was not a water person. I had to force myself in the beginning. So the perfect time for me was right after I brushed my teeth because we already rinse our mouth out anyway. So I was like, well, let me just go ahead and fill up this glass and drink it. And by doing that, I already patted myself on the back first thing in the morning with a sense of accomplishment because that was one glass that I never would have had before. And so that was awesome because I already felt like I was making progress and I was not failing at something. I was actually able to say I'm moving forward in a positive direction. And
I was going to add, too, a lot of people maybe misinterpret swelling.
Yes.
With water intake being the culprit, and that's simply not the case. We have hormones in our body that regulate how much water we have based on, hydrostatic pressure.
Yes.
And different sensors that tell our blood volume. Everything is so perfectly regulated in our bodies that if we're not taking in water, we could have swelling in our extremities and we could still need water. It has nothing to do with having too much in our bodies. Actually, we need to increase the pressure in our veins, we need to have that increased blood volume, to increase the pressure, to get that blood flow back to our heart. And that would actually help us reduce the third spacing in our extremities.
Third spacing means that swelling in our ankles or knees or feet. That's what she means by third spacing.
And so we actually tend to forget, or a lot of people don't even know, that when we don't take in enough water, our body releases this hormone called antidiuretic hormone, which prevents us from being able to release that water through our kidneys. And so that's why our urine becomes more concentrated. We see more filtrates in the urine, so it becomes colored, because we're not releasing the water that's diluting that urine, because we simply just don't have it. We need to keep it in our blood for that blood flow to continue to be efficient. So when we increase our water intake, then we actually are able to reverse those effects and start to filter out the blood more efficiently and get those get the excess water out as needed. But unless you're drinking a gallon of water and you're not urinating at the same time or within that hour, we're not going to worry about hyponatremia or any major serious problems, and you're certainly not going to swell because of it. So it's absolutely necessary that we take in enough to release enough. It's the same thing with calories. If you're not taking in enough to reach your resting metabolic rate, your body's not going to let go of the nutrients. So you are
just
also
going to say, I can't trust that you're going to feed me, so I'm going to hold on to every fat cell and everything that you've given me. I can't trust that you're going to feed me, so I'm not going to let it go.
Thus, starvation mode.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And whenever you go into starvation mode, you're going to whittle away at your muscle that you already have.
For your glycogen storage.
Right.
Which is just glucose in your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you run out of that, you really don't have anything left. That's really when your body finally goes into eating fat, but it's not something that bounces back.
Exactly. And yeah, your body goes into, at that point, if it can't use glucose for fuel, it has no other option than to go into a state of ketosis and start using fat for fuel. Mm-hmm. And we're definitely going to get into that in one of our other segments. And okay, so we went through 3. Did we hit the 4th one yet? An example?
Well, one of my other examples, I like to set long-term goals with somebody closing their eyes and thinking, what does the person I want to be in 6 months do? So what does that person weigh? How much water does that person drink? How disciplined is that person with their food intake or their recording of their food intake? And then also, how disciplined are they with their exercise? So the other one was exercise. And so I usually say, okay, in 6 months, what do you want your new normal to be? Do you want it to be 4 times a week? You make sure you get some sort of activity. Do you want it to be 6 times a week? Are you wanting this to be like priority number 1? Or do you want like your new normal just to be 2 to 3 times a week, just a maintenance? And then what we do is, on a weekly basis or monthly, I'll say, okay, let's say you want your new normal to be 4 times a week, but right now you are a 1 time a week person. This is going to take some time to get used to and make this a habit or a lifestyle. So what I say to them is, let's say we'll just average 8 times over the next month. You can do it once 1 week, 3 times the next week. Don't put that pressure on yourself to be perfect and get it twice a week. And that way you are slowly building up to something that feels normal to you, but eventually gets you where you want to go, which is the new normal or the new set that they're wanting in 6 months.
I love the fact that you keep going back and you keep saying, create a new lifestyle. We're not going to just diet, because diets, you mess up with diets, you yo-yo with diets, and diet has such a bad stigma on it. No, you need to eat healthy. And that's what it's all about, is not depriving yourself of food that tastes really good, has a lot of good flavor, and you just enjoy it, but don't make food become the center of your life. Food is a necessity for us to be healthy, for us to have energy, but it should not consume us. When we go to sit and eat with people, especially here in the South, we sit and we graze and we graze, and it's like that's our comfort area. Food should just be a necessity. We love it, but why can't we just sit at a table and just have a glass of water and just have a conversation without it being constantly shoveling food in our mouth? And so that's recreating that habit, and recreating the lifestyle.
And finding reward in something else. Finding reward
go.
in the company, or finding reward in getting your nails done, or getting that new shade of lipstick, or a reward by taking a vacation. Those are the things that when you hit your goals, to focus on, instead of, oh my God, I can finally have the bread pudding that I've been craving. That's fine. You should have that along the way. You shouldn't see that as your end goal, because if that's always the reward, then the relationship with food as being this thing that you're not allowed to have until you hit a certain goal, that's still psychologically not the best relationship to have with it. So it should definitely be like, I'm going to enjoy a little bit of this, and then my biggest reward is going to be something different, something that's not even related to diet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And can you all see why I am just a proud mama? Because she is phenomenal. She is a wealth of knowledge. She has helped me along my journey and continues to kick me and help me along my journey. So please, if you want to ask her questions, this mama will see to it that my baby gets your questions and gets them answered. So visit our website, renewwithsheri.com, and send Brittany an email, send me an email. I want to hear about your journey, your successes, your frustrations. Send us an email, Sheri@renewwithsheri.com. And we just want to thank you for allowing us to be on this journey with you and to help you to renew you and to become a better you. And so we just thank you so much for tuning in.